Hey everybody, so we're gonna try this again. Okay, what's the issue? Oh, is it February 4th? Oh, sorry, it's Jan 4th. I don't know, I must be thinking it's later than it is. Okay, so let's try this shit again. This better work this time. Or I'm gonna be really pissed off. Oh, I need to open the chat. My, I don't know, my phone says the 4th. Are people still not able to join? Okay, let me know if the join link's not working. I'll probably do an hour and a half or something. I'm just kind of hanging around, as it were. So, yep. Maybe if someone could just try it. I want to see if it even is working today. So, Jolly, even if you could just join for like 30 seconds just to see if the link is finally working or if it's going to continue to suck, because it is Google Hangouts. And Google Hangouts is pretty shitty. Okay, getting an error. Okay, let me just... There's never an easy way in this to... Okay, just give me a second. Let me just... There's never an easy way to just put this shit down. So I'll just put that there. I mean to just, like, flip layers on and off. Okay, let me see here. I can't... It's not letting... You're not showing up in my contact list. Send via email. Okay, see if this link works. So that's the email link. So if that doesn't work, then I'm not sure what else to try, to be perfectly honest. Sorry, that was just shitty. Keep sending me to the Play Store. Okay. Let me see here. Let me see if I can figure this out. Cause that weird. I mean, it's on. I can see it right here. Okay, so found a workaround. But I mean, like, I don't get it because I can see it on my end. Like, it's physically present. Enable live chat, enable slow mode. I don't know. Does somebody like know how to do this? Because I don't understand why this wouldn't work. Because it worked like a week or so ago. I just don't see why it would work a week ago, but it won't work now. Because when I had Cavalry on, I used Google Hangouts and there wasn't an issue with it. So why there's an issue now, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, but do people here even have Discord? I mean, I have a group. Okay, you know what we'll do? Okay, let me see here. Where's the link? Okay, here's the link to my Discord server. Set this link to never expire. So, I don't know if... We'll see if this can work. Discord doesn't work either. Okay. What does work then? Discord doesn't work. Let me see here. Is there something else I have to do? Server settings. Overview. I don't know. Can anybody join with the Discord link? Oh, one new message. There we go. The link didn't work. Okay. I don't get why it's so shitty. I don't. I'm gonna have to try to figure this out at some point. Join it. I can't add members to my Google group. Google Hangouts has switched to not allow external guests to join. Okay, here we go. This looks like it. Okay, I think I might have found this. G Suite Initial. Okay, well, let me see here. Okay, let me just close this and let me see how... Sorry, guys. If I can't get Google Hangouts working at some point, we'll just switch over to using Discord. Because, yeah. Let's see. How do I turn this on? Deafen, mute, user settings. Streamer mode is enabled. How do I turn this on? Voice and video. Push to talk. I don't really know how Discord works. Do you have to click a button to start a call, or is it automatic? I'm just trying to think. I'm just trying to see here. Text. Oh, general. Okay, there we go. Okay, let's see here. Everybody move into voice channel. Okay, there we go. Okay. Oh, there we go. It's working now. Yay. Hey, guys. Okay. Yeah, good to see you. Okay, so it is working. Just for people on the other end, let me know if you hear everybody else okay? Just people in the chat, if you can hear the other people, just let me know. Let me see here. No, I don't want browser. I don't want window capture on. Or actually, you know what? I'll put on Assassin's Creed Origins in the background. So, what you guys have on your mind? Only you were coming in. Oh, okay. What if you say something?
Hello.
Okay.
Hi.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, okay. So we have a couple different people. So just people in the live chat, let me know if you can hear everybody okay. Yeah.
What are we talking about?
I don't know. Whatever people want to talk about. Okay. So people are seeing we can hear everybody all right. So, I don't know. Just a viewer hangout if you guys want to come on. Sorry, just, do you guys have anything in mind?
I could talk about something I was reading earlier today.
Sure, go ahead.
Tell us.
So I was reading it was by Joseph Stalin. It was a newspaper article that quoted him from like the 50s, and he was talking about how it was a bad thing that Russians, like ethnic Russians, had dominated the government of Russia for centuries. And
Right.
I thought that kind of was odd because it's essentially talking about a disposition of legitimacy to rule nations by the people who have legitimate authority to do so because, you know, they live there.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's not really much. I was thinking about that today.
Mm-hmm. Well, Stalin was initially the Bolsheviks kind of went through different phases. They were initially very anti-nationalist, and then they became very nationalist later on.
Well, like, that's the thing. There's a difference. Like, I've made the distinction between Soviet patriotism and then Russian nationalism because Soviet patriotism is the want to establish a Soviet superstate, right? Whereas Russian nationalism is an association with Russia and, you know, the Orthodox Church, and those can be distinct within the phases of Soviet history. So I think in the later part of the Soviet Union, they became more patriotist, but they never became nationalist.
Because, like, from my understanding, because I was talking to a friend of mine who, I don't know if you guys have ever seen, I'll post a link to it just because he needs all the help he can get. There's a guy, Nazbal Gang, who's a good friend of mine. Now, he claims it's all ironic, but it clearly isn't. But, Nazbal Gang, what National Bolshevism was my understanding is when the whites knew they lost the war, they decided to go on with, they decided to try to make their own version of communism or to try to influence existing communism. And that's when you got National Bolshevism.
It was also a German movement. You had German Nazbols.
Yeah, there was a lot of
yeah,
overlap.
that's like Strasser.
Yeah.
Put a link to this.
They were members of the German Communist Party who called themselves National Bolsheviks, and I think there was an alliance between him and Ernst Junger's revolutionary conservative movement.
Yeah, because Germany, they were kind of the communists, the neoliberals, and the Nazis, and then the revolutionary conservatives, which they were, you know, God, family, and country, that type of stuff, rather than Aryan superstate.
Yeah, it was actually what I'm reading at the moment. I don't know if anybody's read it. It's called Hitler's War. It's a
I've never read that.
okay. It's by David Irving, who's famed for being like the greatest Holocaust denier of all time. When he's not even a Holocaust denier, he just thinks the death toll was 4 million instead of 6 million. So
Yeah.
yeah. So, but no, it's interesting because he talks a lot about World War II, and his kind of thesis is that Hitler was a rational actor, because there's this idea that this dude who came to power, he started out with nothing, no money, like 30 guys. He somehow beat the communists, the conservatives, the social democrats. He beat all these people, and he was able to outmaneuver Britain, Russia, France, Italy, all that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, it was kind of like Napoleon.
Yeah, but it's like we're supposed to accept that this dude is completely crazy and stupid.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's kind of David Irving's thesis. And David Irving, as far as I know, isn't a neo-Nazi. I think he's like a paleo-conservative or something. But like, he clearly is not one. But yeah, his entire career was destroyed over writing this book.
Like, I think we can admit that while still not being neo-Nazis, because like I can support Napoleon even though I don't like all of his ideals and stuff, because he was still in some ways a rational actor the same way Hitler was, as the book describes. Of course, I haven't read it, but
I mean, he's a it's just kind of interesting. I think that was what was considered to be the kind of the greatest sin of David Irving, was not denying the Holocaust, not promoting Hitler, because like he calls Goering and Himmler and stuff Hitler's thugs or goons, but it was portraying him as like a rational actor, which is just
because he's meant to be insane.
Yeah, and like another one of his theses was that Hitler wasn't the mastermind of the Holocaust, Himmler was, and he wasn't fully aware of even what was going on. And just kind of things like that, but it's just, that is more devastating than him, because like if you read it, he literally went and interviewed like hundreds of people who knew Hitler personally.
Yeah.
So like the response to him was that eyewitness testimony isn't like a reliable part of historical investigation.
I think that's a valid thesis though, because if you look at Himmler compared to Hitler, Himmler was incredibly, like, he was the most pagan out of all of them.
Himmler was an autist.
He founded the SS. Well, he was the main founder and driving force of the SS, based around this kind of occultic Germanic, like Aryan thing, which he was really into.
I don't even think it ever got that big. It was just Himmler was really big into it. But no,
I mean, most of the SS were like Catholics and devout Christians.
Yeah, it was mainly Himmler who wanted that, but going into him being responsible for it, that would make sense, because Himmler had a lot of power, and he was the guy who ran the Holocaust essentially, so he could have very well deceived people.
And I think like the other part of his thesis is the SS, as time went on, kind of became more and more of a liability, because while they were more loyal than the Wehrmacht, they were also more radical, and they were more...
Yeah.
They were just harder to kind of control. So...
Yeah, exactly.
But no, that was just something kind of on my mind lately.
I mean, that seemed... I would have to read the book. I should probably read it pretty soon. Because that sounds interesting.
It's free on David Irving's website.
Irving?
David Irving. Yeah.
All right. And going back to the Holocaust, this is kind of a conspiracy thing, but some people. This is another thing I was researching, because I was just researching the Soviet Union in general. In the Tsarist pogroms, you know how there was, pogroms under the Tsar. It's claimed that 16 million Jews were killed.
Sorry, 16 million?
Yeah, that's what newspapers claimed at the time, that they had killed 16 million Jews.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same as the Holocaust. It's 6.
You mean 6 million? Right. Okay.
Yeah, and there's a thesis that essentially in the Talmud, which is the holy book of Jews, that's a number of sacrifice. That it's some number involving 6. A number of Jews with the unit of 6 have to be sacrificed for some type of divine thing to happen. I forget what it was, but I just thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting. I always find World War II history really neat, and it was just kind of a different perspective. It's nice to see someone trying to do real scholarship on it, because I find a lot of World War II history is just very biased to one side or the other.
That's...
Because a lot of the time it's, the Germans were evil, or, the Allies were evil. And, like, especially in these circles, a lot of the people who defend Germany are, yeah.
I heard that at the start of the war, that it was basically a bluff, and because countries didn't react to what Germany was doing, they kept going on with the plan, and it kept expanding and whatnot, and it got to the point where it was kind of a point of no return, and by the time the other world powers reacted, it was basically too late for them to call the bluff or whatnot. So,
are you talking about the Holocaust specifically, or the war?
Hand in hand, both.
Oh.
I think with regards to the war, I'm not really sure it's interesting. I think there's a tendency in these circles to blame Britain for everything. But, because they're like, well, Britain kept fighting. Sorry?
Oh, that's one piece of information I know.
But it's like, by the point when, after France fell, it's like, what were they supposed to do? They had basically violated every international agreement, so there was really no reason to expect that any truce they made would be honored, so... But
once they took France, like you were saying, there was no going back from taking France. I mean that you would.
No, I mean with regards for the English, like, because people will say, oh, they should have just accepted like a peace with them after that.
Oh yeah.
And I was
basically.
I was just saying, well,
didn't surrender right off the bat, it would have never even escalated.
Well, it's just. And I know like some people in these circles will blame Britain for World War I as well. And take the perspective that they shouldn't have helped Poland out. But, so not Poland, what's it called again? Belgium out. But anyways, is there something in the chat people want to... Okay, let's see here. What do you think about Snowden? Is he a shill? Okay, do you guys have any thoughts on Snowden?
Snowden was the
He was the guy who leaked all the NSA stuff.
The drone footage, right?
No, he leaked all the stuff about how the NSA was spying on everybody.
He didn't do nothing. He was a good boy.
Oh yes, I know who he is. I because I don't like the NSA, but I kind of don't like the NSA. That's a really difficult topic, but he's not really a shill.
I don't know if shill's the right term. It's some people like...
He's a traitor, but I don't think he's a shill.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He was a good boy.
I don't know, like there's different perspectives. Some people will say that what he did was justified. Other people will say he's a traitor, is never justified. I actually... Maybe this is weird coming from you. I don't like the police state. And I don't like domestic surveillance. Maybe it's weird given, like, how I'm like a far right YouTuber, but I just don't like it. I don't think it's necessary. I kind of do believe in the old "a man's house is his castle" thing. I actually am generally supportive of him.
Sounds like you played a lot of LA Noire.
What do you mean?
Oh no, just because that game is set in the 50s and that whole concept was a thing in California at the time, a man's house being his castle.
Yeah, well that's just, I don't know.
I know what you mean.
Man, a king.
Oh god. Huey Long is banned from this stream.
No, but it's, I don't know. So I tend to be sympathetic towards Son. I don't know if he did it for the right reasons, but I would kind of rather not have the domestic surveillance and risk. I mean, I don't know. Is it really necessary to spy on like absolutely everybody?
Yeah, that's the issue. And then on top of that, my opinion on
everyone.
policing is that, you know, with government power in general, should only be trusted to those who can take responsibility with it. I wouldn't trust, you know, this deep state with that power.
Well, we wouldn't have to deal with the NSA if we lived in a monoculture society.
Well, it's true. I mean, if you look at what percentage of domestic surveillance is caused by diversity, you have Islamic terrorism, gangs, drug cartels. I like what Ramsey Paul said about it. He was talking about when, I think it was Andrew Jackson got elected, they all had a picnic. Everybody came out and they had a picnic, and he hung out with the people. I forget if it was Harry Truman who would like to, he just had a bodyguard or two and he just walked the streets of Washington, D.C. And Ramsey Paul said the police state is necessary because everyone fucking hates them so much that they'd kill them if they got a chance.
I think, like, I don't even know who was talking, but, someone said just a second ago, that it has to do with the fact that we aren't a monoculture, and I think it does, because, America is basically in a state of chaos that's just simply being held together by the government. And because you have a bunch of different groups that are fighting each other, you have gangs, you have a ton of shit. And all of it, I mean, this isn't really coherent. I think in our society, surveillance is necessary, but that's because our society is so unnatural.
Absolutely. I'd agree with that. And that's the unfortunate truth. I mean, I think all of us would ideally not want that.
Because I think Avola talked about this. States only become totalitarian when they have to enforce their legitimacy, and that's what we have to do because we have no legitimacy anywhere, but with a gun in our hand. Because we, you know, the people who founded us didn't have legitimacy in their religion or in their government, and now we've removed any legitimacy from that because we're everyone. I mean, name a group that isn't represented in America. You can't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, with regards to what generic shooter says, those are excuses. The kind of guys who love to spy and everything do it because they love power. That is true. That's not to say there aren't cases where you need a police state. Like in Latin America, if I was governing a Latin America country during the Cold War, I'm okay with the police tracking down and killing commies. That is what they're supposed to do. But I don't know if that means you have to spy on absolutely, like, everybody. Which is kind of my issue with the whole NSA thing. Also, it's kind of an issue. Would you rather face this, whatever the consequences are of not spying on everybody versus them misusing it? Because you know it's going to be used for hate speech laws. It's going to be used for thought crimes, that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, Argent, you're basically a terrorist in Canada.
Yeah. I'm a criminal in Canada, even though I've never even lied on my taxes. I even report my YouTube income, which a lot of people don't.
Didn't you state in one of your videos that, I can't remember which one, you basically said all old political, any politician or whatever civilization, they always have a type of, I don't know what you would call.
Oh, a police
I guess,
state? Oh, yeah, there's always a
political
secret police. Yeah.
And I tend to agree with that to an extent, but yeah, I think you made a valid point.
No. I mean, okay, let me just clarify what I mean. Okay, so I was saying that in reference to the Spanish Inquisition and how people pretend it was some kind of unique evil that like never had happened before and has no precedence. And my point was basically every civilized society has some form of secret police to deal with political issues. Yeah. Now, that's not to say they're all the same. They vary very wildly from, like, America during the Cold War, where the FBI just shut down commies and, like, black terrorists, to ones where they literally just kill everybody. So, I mean, it's a constant thing.
Yeah, well, I would argue that
some are good, some are bad.
Pretty organic throughout history until this very point because of diversity for that very reason.
One of kind of the
well, look at the Spanish government. My father was in Franco, Spain for a few years, and the secret police there basically kept like crime to like an absolute zero. Like, you know, you could walk
but naked throughout the street.
My understanding was Franco wasn't that oppressive compared to some of the other regimes.
Yeah. Well, of course, he's kind of the lighter of the pack.
Right. Well, most political scientists don't even consider Francoism to be fascism. They just consider it to be like just kind of traditional, like authoritarian conservatism.
Authoritarian conservative.
Well, yeah, Franco united all of the different far-right parties, like the traditionalist landowners.
Well, not even just the far right, but like the just the right in general.
Yeah, conservatives.
What it's kind of like is it reminds me a lot of United Russia, because United Russia and Putin's party is basically all the different like right-wing factions in Russia coming together. So, like, you have social conservatives, you have, like, economic conservatives, you have nationalists, you have orthodoxy, and you kind of have this mixture of different factions altogether. Which is just kind of what I like. I don't go into too much detail just because I'm still kind of working stuff out myself about what it would be like if I had my own government, but I think part of it would be like kind of like a one-party state like that, where you have like one party, but there's like a lot of room for diversity, because I think like that works pretty good in Japan by and large, because that's basically how Japan functions.
Yeah.
Well, I believe in building a new government from the ground up. I'm kind of in those circles.
I just don't like political parties at all. Like, I'm a monarchist, if it wasn't clear, because the main issue with modern politics, and also I want to get back to the surveillance state thing because I have a thing about that. But the thing about modern politics and just democratic politics in general is that it's always led by interests. And when a governor, for instance, in my state, when a governor is running, like when a governor has won the election, the only thing they're going to do during their governorship is try to get elected next year, or next election, sorry. And that means that they're going to essentially be bought and owned by various interests within the country, or within the state, or whatever it is, within the region. And because of that, you create a system where really there is no one who's above interest that can make righteous decisions. You simply have people who are bought and sold between these interests.
At the same time, though, and I think some people in these circles forget about this, you need some form of representation. People have to be able to choose.
Of course.
No, I'm just saying, because there's some people in these circles who are like absolute monarchists or whatever. Although absolute monarchy is kind of a meme, but
yeah,
it's there's always some form of
Hey,
representation.
Argent, if your society isn't based around feudalism and starving to death and the Black Plague, what are you even doing?
That's actually something that happens because I'm trying to get my book done in the next couple months. Hopefully, within the next month, I'll get it to my editor. But there is a group of NRX guys who just go completely crazy when America is like collapsing, and they view the dawns of the cartels as being a return of feudalism and a return to a traditionalist society. So they call themselves Sardaukar after Dune, and they dress in like black uniforms and shit, and they're the terror troopers for the cartels. So
well, I mean, yeah, cartels. That's just but what? Yeah, it's just. I think there are a lot of stereotypes like that, and then there are people who actually do them. Like, I've met a few actual feudalists who believe in like abolishing guns.
yeah,
See, I think you made a video about this. It's one of my favorite videos of yours, Argent, where you're talking about the new versus old order, and how in the past it was primarily based around a lord having to train and that type of stuff. That's kind of simplifying it. But with the advent of guns and technology and stuff, I mean, that's not necessary much. Much more combat isn't much of a factor in our economics. But a lot of people are like that, where they want to go back to that, and it really doesn't make any sense. I think our ideology should be based around the advent of technology or invent of technology, I think.
Well, it's
and not trying to pull back to where we don't have guns and we're based around a system that isn't necessary.
Well, like to me, and this is how I defined it: the difference between neo-reaction and reaction. And I know that doesn't really exist as a movement anymore, but I kind of feel that old school reaction was based on what we'd traditionally done, and I kind of feel like kind of the more new right, like me and just kind of people like me, came about from people kind of coming to the same conclusions, but through, I guess, kind of more social science means. Like looking at stuff like Bowling Alone, Clash of Civilizations, a lot of the stuff that what's his name does, Ryan Falk, just all that kind of thing, and it just kind of gender realism, looking at how feminism has had such a negative impact on women, like it doesn't make them happy, and I kind of feel it's coming to a lot of kind of traditionalist ideas of the world, but through kind of more modern social science or modern biology.
So with the whole vegan movement,
oh fuck vegans.
Yeah,
everyone I know now is vegan.
I'm sorry.
Anti-vegan concentration.
Like, because I can understand. I don't know. I have mixed
there's the blue zone diets. Because I'm all for that.
Because I can kind of understand vegetarianism to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean Hitler himself was a vegetarian.
I mean, I like meat. But it's, I don't know. It's also just a religious thing. I think the animals exist for us to enjoy them. That doesn't mean like I really dislike trophy hunting though. For instance,
I'm very much for raising animals humanely, but
I'm for hunting if you're gonna eat the animal.
Because you don't want to. I don't know.
No, like I support hunting, like so long as you're actually gonna eat the animal or like use its fur or something. I just don't like
Well, people misusing property.
Well, factory farming, that's the main issue with the meat industry. But it's like anything else. Usually, there's an elite where kind of capitalist efficiency that's.
Well, that's kind of the issue. I mean,
I don't like factories no matter what. So.
Well, I always thought it was interesting because at least a lot of my friends within these circles that I have in real life, they always make fun of me because I like to eat organic or get as much organic as I could going to farmers markets. But I just think it's more humane. It goes back to your roots.
And it's better for you.
Literally, you know. I mean, I just can't stand the corporatization of food. I just can't.
It's like they're stripping any sort of natural components of it. Like it's all for the Gibbs. Like literally for these massive
Now,
companies.
what was interesting was because I always was wondering, like, for gluten intolerance and stuff, I'm like, did this shit just not exist prior to the modern era? And I was reading a book about it, like, why was wheat-induced obesity just not a problem? And they've, like, have specific strands of wheat that they developed in the last 50 years that are, like, worse. They just have a lot more gluten and are a lot more fattening. And just things like that. And it's, no, but it's I do think there's something to a lot of this, and I used to think it was crazy, but the 2 times I've been to Europe, there just aren't fat people there to nearly the same extent. And I'm like, well, maybe there's something to this whole, like, banning chemicals and GMO and a lot of this other shit, because it just doesn't.
The American diet, the fault is mainly 2 things. It's one, a lot of sugar. Everything has sugar in it.
Yeah,
sugar
that's
is
the big
especially for guys.
And not only that, I think GMOs on a global scale have such an issue with development in Africa too. I mean, it's just increasing an already distraught continent. You know, it's horrible.
Well, also they just can't farm
It's
properly.
just increasing. Well, it's increasing the birth rate, you know, artificially.
Well, also they can't. I mean, I don't think Africa probably is actually overpopulated. I mean, it is big. The issue is the people there have super high time preference. Like, a lot of the desert in Africa, even 50 years ago, used to be forest. I think Kenya cut down 80 to 90% of its forests in, like, a 20-year time period. But it's just with regards to any type of farming or anything, the people just don't have the time preference for agriculture.
Well, yeah, I mean, but if you look at, like, some of the population growth, I mean, like Niger, it's much higher than
ironically.
Artificially.
Yeah.
The most ironic thing.
But the whole thing is, I mean, it always had a small population. I think when the French ruled it was a very small kind of population of native blacks, but it's going up.
I don't pay attention to Africa. It's too depressing.
It's not really our business, as far as I can see. Most of it.
I mean, it's not our business practically, or rather, it shouldn't be our business, but it is, because we are ultimately going to have to be forced to deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to deal with, if not the continent, it's the people within the continent. That's the biggest issue.
Them.
Well, I mean,
we're going to be forced to by our government.
Why are we?
Exactly.
Why are we forced to deal with them?
I don't know. Ask the guy. No, I'm not saying that we should be. I'm saying that we are. So we should talk about it.
So, I mean, you gotta have to realize there is a link between the populations and GMOs. That's my kind of
thing. There's also people nowadays. There's a massive dependence of Africa on the Western world. The same way there was in the past. It's just nowadays we're hypocritical about, like, nowadays we say, well, colonialism was bad, except we basically have control over these nations due to debt and such, and also care for them.
Yeah, if it's not going to be us, it's going to be China. It's going to be someone else.
America exports a lot of food.
Hello? Is this working?
Yes. Just people in chat, if it's getting too laggy or anything, just let me know and I'll try to deal with it. I just, I can't listen to the stream, or otherwise it would reflect back in an infinite loop, and nobody wants that, so. There's a lot of issues with our diet, but from my understanding, a large portion of it is trying to maximize output at all costs. And that's led to some bad decisions with long-term consequences. But it's, food's gotten a lot more expensive in the last couple of years. Mainly meat.
Probably will. Like, this is the main thing we should be concerned in our circles is, I think you might be familiar with the communist meme, seizing the means of production.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have to own the means of production, you know? so we can kind of have our own self-run economy.
That's kind of the part of distributionism. It's distributing the means of production rather than having it being consolidated, which is what we have now.
Now,
Yeah, well,
I am kind of
about
infamously
growing
against
so-
distributism, so...
What?
I'm talking about us, like, as an entity, you know, owning these things and forming sort of like our own business network that we control these things and we can regulate them in our own prices.
I have toyed with starting Edgelord Industries. Or just getting, because there's a lot of people in these circles who can program or do like website design or something, and try to start some like online based business with that.
We're working on that already, so we should do that.
Well, I don't know. I'd have to think about it, but I kind of feel like there are people in these circles who have real skills that I don't think a lot of them are neats who are just not putting them to use. So
Yeah.
It is kind of weird because, like, a lot of people in here, I think even you, Argent, if I'm not mistaken, we're like nerds. We're into usually IT shit, or we work in IT, but we also have opinions about things that most other people like us don't. I hope that makes sense. That didn't seem very rational.
yeah, it's yeah. I mean, I do work full time, as I like to say, but it is. There's a lot of it's very difficult. I'm never hard on people who aren't working. So it took me like 2 years to get a job. The environment is not good out there. If you live in Canada, or just if you're job searching, keep your eyes open, because you'll find just about every job advertisement has some variant of white males need not apply.
Yeah.
Generally, it says it says something to the effect of we're an equal opportunity employer.
My job.
Diversity is our strength, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and these companies, like, you have no...
Not white guys that got the job.
Well, why would you serve a company that is ultimately... Well, it's not serving you, it's basically working against you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and this is why we should be forming, like, you know, basically our own business network.
The Edgelord Union.
Yes,
The vertical syndicate.
boycott globalism. Boycott globalism.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're basically allowing yourself to be doxxed by your employer, because if any way you try to express your views, if you have like a regular job, if you don't own your own business or something, you're just gonna be screwed. They're going to fire you pretty much immediately for spreading hate or whatever.
Yeah, it's like if you're okay, let's see here. You shouldn't eat McDonald's every day. Let's see. Sammy Hyde asked me, what are your thoughts on the legalization of weed? So I'm going to go all grandpa. I actually think weed is a lot more dangerous than people think it is.
Agreed.
Particularly the thing you have to understand.
Devil's lettuce.
Well, no, the thing you have to understand with weed is, from the medical studies I've read, it's not that bad in adults who use it. The issue is if you're under 20 and you use it, it does severe and permanent brain damage.
It's actually under 25, I think.
It's under
Like,
25?
if you smoke it, it will just, it depends on how much, but
And
it
how
can
young you are.
seriously mess with your developmental functions. I don't know, there's a word for that.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people I know who did weed, and they're screwed up. Like they have, like, you can tell that they used to do weed because they speak really strangely.
Your brain.
But like there's older people who do it, and they're fully grown, so it's not good, but it doesn't have nearly the same effect anymore. And
that's the issue.
My issue is also people don't think it's bad for you. Like, people, I think, at some level, even if they abuse it, understand alcohol is bad for you, at least in large amounts. Yeah. We know that that cigarettes are bad for you, but I think there's like a lot of people in university who are like, "Oh, it's organic, it's natural," when it isn't in a lot of cases, anyways. But it's Yeah, so if you don't know, in Canada, weed is now legal, or it will be within the next couple months.
It's completely legal in my state, which I put in the chat. I'm not going to say it. And the issue, since everyone says it's healthy and fine, even if they know, if that person knows that they're only referring to adults, people are going to hear that and spread it where, teenagers believe it and like 12-year-olds believe it. And then since there are tons of adults here that will sell weed to kids because they can buy it freely, it will just spread and damage a bunch of people because they have no idea. Some of the people who sell it to people under the age of 25, they have no idea either, because it's kind of like an inadvertent rhetoric that's been created around it.
It's like I said. I think the single biggest issue is people don't think it's dangerous. People don't think it. Like, also people don't think it hurts your ability to drive. I've heard that one a lot.
Yeah.
Legalize it and treat it like alcohol.
Yeah, but I mean that's a good idea. But you would have to because nowadays alcohol, most teenagers don't buy alcohol from like adults, but they do it for weed. So you would have to. It would take a while for society to adapt to it and also to make changes that would work, because really it's a cultural thing.
Like, as a teen, I could never find alcohol, but weed was always I always had weed. So
I have heard that argument that it would make it harder for people to get, for teenagers to get, which it probably is the case. I just find it a really funny thing to say, that legalizing it makes it harder to get. I guess it would, though. It's not a good situation. In Canada, we're having an explosion of opium use. What is it? Ketamine? What's the weird one? The really one that's become really popular.
Krakow or something?
Yeah, because we have a whole bunch of that in Alberta. Because you had the collapse of the price of oil.
Only poor Russians are crazy enough to inject crocodile.
Oh, crocodile. Yeah, that's it. I wanted to say crocodile, but I knew that was wrong.
I think it's also called ketamine or phetamine or something like that. It's kind of the other big thing.
Ketamine is a dog tranquilizer.
Oh, it's a dog tranquilizer? Okay, I forget what it's called. But there's some new opiate that's like a really big deal in Canada. Crocodile?
Fentanyl, I guess.
Fentanyl, that was it. Thank you. That's what I was thinking of.
Mixed in with the other narcotics.
Yeah, fentanyl is a huge issue. Because, like I said, in Alberta, the oil market collapsed. Yeah. So.
Yo.
Someone in the...
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Yeah.
Someone in the chat said that legalized abortion is safer than alleyway abortion, and my question to that is, why would you want to make murder safer?
Right, now... oh, sorry, go on.
No, go. You can go.
I just, because
the tree of life.
I kind of wanted to do a video at some point called Liberal Views I Hold or something like that. I don't think 100% abortion ban is feasible. I don't.
No, banning something doesn't mean it won't exist.
No. I don't think people will ever accept that. I just think if you could ban it in all cases except for mother's life, rape, incest, serious danger to health, that would...
I mean, if I controlled the government, I would pretty much total ban drugs and abortion. Just no question on that issue.
The thing is, elective abortion is like 90. I've looked it up. It's 95 to 96%. The rape and shit is like less than 1%. It's a meme.
It's not even an issue. For rape, though, I still don't think it should be legal, because I don't think... Maybe for incest. I haven't been convinced either way about incest and that type of stuff. But for rape, it doesn't make sense, because I still think that good can come out of...
No, I agree. I just don't think you're ever going to get the masses to accept that. I think, there are decent people who aren't like bad people who can't accept it.
I
And
was friends with a rape child. She was kind of messed in the head.
no. Like I'm not saying like I understand it, and I personally am morally against it, but I can understand why like people who aren't like pieces of shit want it legal in the case of rape.
I kind of want to go back to the legalization of weed
Sure.
and kind of give you guys my case of this. I think it is smart that if like our circles do support it, because if we really look at like the youth, that is majorly popular amongst the youth. And like I've talked to some of my friends who will say they're libertarians, and the only reason they support the libertarians is because they want to legalize weed.
Yeah.
I think this is like something. This is something like we could use to gain a lot more populism.
Like,
I don't really think.
populism with who?
Wait,
I
do
think
they
just
want
among like
people
white,
to-
young white males. I think this could be very popular, and I think like one thing we can't do
So
is
you
that
want
like
a
we look
bunch
like.
of crackheads in your movie?
No, I mean it's not that every person that supports that is bad, but I think it's something that we could use to gain lots more members. And I just don't really think.
saying, let's just add more Muslims into our group so it looks
But
more.
no, I think there's a lot of like white people that just. I think it's just the problem like we're having is like that you can still be a traditionalist, but we need to have some liberal views. Like we can't just be like we want it back to this time. We need to be somewhat.
Well,
open.
you're taking the wrong route on that issue. You're saying that like let's be.
I was in that boat, so I agree.
You're bending over in the wrong area.
I
used to think that way a lot, but my whole thing is a lot of these people, that's the number one and only issue. Everything else they can care less about.
Well, then
Yeah.
we don't care about them. Because, I mean, people care about more than that, honestly. It's like saying it's just not something you want to get yourself into. It's just...
have any of you guys
completely
seen
moral.
Uncut the Rights video NAP? Oh, okay. It's funny. That's like part of it. I think the
I mean,
funniest thing is how libertarians are against freedom of association.
Are for or against.
They're against freedom of association.
Yeah, that's actually like the one thing I actually liked about libertarianism or classical liberalism is just sort of a devolved sort of area or sort of.
But like the mainstream libertarian move in the States doesn't, but like is actively
Political
against
power.
freedom of association.
What?
They're against freedom of, like they don't believe people have the right to associate who they want to associate with. Is the mainstream libertarian position in the States.
Yeah.
Because what happened was freedom of association meant you could just not let people move into your community or into your apartment building or whatever. And they ruled you have no idea of... like, they said you have no right to pick who you associate with. So...
Yeah, it's more... statist!
It's like how... you don't have a right to refuse service. Like that poor Christian couple who got sued by the fucking faggots for all the money.
Yeah.
Because they were trying to exercise basically freedom of association. But if you talk to libertarians, like the Libertarian Party, they will say that that's okay. Like it's all right that they have to serve them.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah. I mean, we have to appeal to our younger crowds there.
I don't know. I'm just
Well, we should not need to appeal to anyone. That's like
Yeah.
a Christian appealing to someone by removing a very important part of Christianity, like
Indeed.
liberal Christians.
well, no. I mean, I don't know. It's
Principle.
But how do we win the normies?
You
You
don't.
don't.
You make
Yeah.
them non-normies.
Well, this is the thing. If you want support, be a good person. That's all I can say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, like people only because that's the thing. It's that's where you talk about democracy. It's like it's just all about appeals and it's basically a satanic system or feeling. It's like
Yeah, it's based on lust, which is satanic.
Yeah.
But isn't like the end goal more important though? If we have to appeal a little bit, I mean,
I just don't think it would help much. But like, okay, the
It's
question
wrong.
of mass appeal, I think it's in political science. There's something called an essentially contested concept. That means something that is by its nature necessarily contentious and has no clear answer to, because it means different things to different people. And I think the whole idea of how to appeal, how not to appeal is one of those. I don't think that's the way. But there's like some people on one end, like that was my criticism of like what Millennial Woes was saying when Thoughtgate happened. Because I kind of agreed with a little bit of what he was saying, but he said anybody who questions trad thoughts is like an infiltrator and like paranoid shit like that. So
I mean, I think just like winning is the most important thing. Like, I don't think that we got to be like this like purity spiral thing. Like, I think winning is more important.
Well, there's a problem with people who get too ideological. I can agree with that. But there is a problem with just sort of saying, it's like it gives me victory. You have to earn victory through virtue. And it's not done through just, gives me victory. That's just not achievable.
But
That's
what I'm
not how
trying
you
to say
win
is like,
wars.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I just think that some like the libertarian talking points, some of them are good that we could use. And it's not like that they will destroy the society. I think that they did gain a lot of popularity.
I do think that a more libertarian government, small government being for small government and for small business, that is the key. Like that's the two things that you have to hold.
I don't know, because
Shop small, support small businesses over big ones, and then support small government in most cases. Of course, you'll have outliers. Sometimes maybe you might need a larger government if you can control that, if that can be used for good. Or maybe there might be a slightly larger business that might be good. But it's, that's just, you have to start small.
So let me see your questions in the chat. Cloning. I don't know why clones... I'm against cloning. I don't know why clones would be different from normal humans. I've never understood that perspective. Why they would be different.
Kind of a spiritual.
You know what the church teaches in regards to clones, right?
Don't they teach they just have souls?
It's like it's the exact copy, and it will pretty much have the thoughts. It'll look like everything, but it won't have a soul, and it wouldn't really. It would just be.
I don't see why it wouldn't have a soul.
Reality, though.
Isn't it kind of like saying like a fetus doesn't have a soul?
No,
like,
I think clones do. I don't think it's not even a question.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with
Argent. God can cooperate with bad things. Like a rape baby still has a soul. It's bad. Yeah. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but God can cooperate with shitty things we do.
The problem with cloning is that it's artificial. It's completely artificial. It's almost like transhumanism.
Argent, do you think that God has a very human consciousness?
No, not... Well, it's an interesting question. It depends, I guess, what you mean by that. God is the ultimate, the platonic form of the mind, and we're kind of a lesser version of it. An infinitely lesser, but it's somewhat similar, I guess. I think what a lot of people don't understand is the mind's actually a very simple thing. It's very profound and deep, but I've always kind of considered it a simple, fundamentally simple thing. So it's when people talk about complexity, God is a mind, and the mind is very simple, although very deep and profound.
I mean, do you see humans in the human mind as kind of the pinnacle of consciousness, or do you think God is the pinnacle of consciousness?
Well, God obviously is. Angels are also greater than humans, but humans are the only being other than angels that have rational souls. Propane Daddy asked, does God have a penis? Well, Jesus, yes, Jesus had a penis. Otherwise, he couldn't use the washroom. So, yes, he does. Let's see here. There's no use for clones. Let me see. That's another one I have to do. That's on the net list of sci-fi pulsi. I want to do one on the Force.
Argent, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts on Ancient Aliens?
I think it's goofy, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just. Did you ever see Prometheus?
Yes, I did see Prometheus.
I don't know. It's just a kind of a crazy like movie and like theory that they had like aliens could like.
It was a movie they kind of fucked up. I had mixed feelings about it. Like it had potential.
The story's cool.
It had potential. I don't think it was very well executed. It didn't really make a lot of sense.
But, I mean, like Prometheus is like Ancient Aliens, the movie.
Yeah, it's one of the Ancient Aliens the movie. The other one is, of course, Indiana Jones' Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah, but that's way goofier.
But no, I like Ancient Aliens. I don't know. It just seems kind of like, I hate to keep saying meme, but it just kind of sounds like someone they're reaching. And if you look at it, like it's really desperate. Like part of it is just to infantilizing people in the past.
Is in a extraterrestrial.
No, it's just like, oh, these people couldn't like build anything. It's like, oh, the pyramids are so hard to build. The pyramids like aren't that hard to build. You just need a lot of slaves. I mean, they're literally just big piles of rocks.
Yeah, it's like they can't even.
Hundreds of years. So when you think about how long, like.
No, you just have a lot of slaves. You just drag shit there. I mean,
Most of them weren't even slaves. They were.
Yeah, I heard they weren't slaves.
Serfs.
What are you talking about? We built the pyramids.
Shit. We was.
No, I was talking about a different group of people.
I don't know. There's just a lot of weird shit.
I think with aliens, do you think aliens are demons?
That's actually what I tend to believe. If they exist, I am skeptical about aliens. I haven't seen really.
Have some really almost technology kind of like.
Yeah.
And stuff that kind of look not very natural. It kind of.
Well, I think one thing the Ancient Aliens kind of taught me is I think the civilization is way older than we think. Like human civilization. I mean, they're finding things that like predate like 10,000 years.
Okay, like a thing you have to keep in mind is, and once I said it's infantilizing the past. It's like this idea that somehow everybody prior to the current year was just retarded. Like, I mean, that's kind of what it comes to. Like, they weren't retarded. They were just as smart as kind of we were. In some ways, they were smarter because they wouldn't have allowed some of the shit that happens today to happen. But they are...
Tribes are basically retarded, so it depends.
Well, no, I mean, it depends, but, like, they didn't... A lot of them just, like, the things they could memorize, that sort of thing. It's...
Tribes that still don't know how to make fire.
No, I mean, well, those people have, like, a natural 60 IQ, but it's not...
I mean, yeah, you look at like Stonehenge. That's like an advanced star calendar. That shit's like crazy. Like how they figured that out.
But no, I mean, like, it's like I don't see any reason why you would need to resort to having ancient aliens like at all. I think most of it can just be explained through.
I don't think that humans were put here by aliens either. That's another theory.
Part of it is, I think, just a desperate attempt to try to pass off God. So it's like, I don't know if any, like, it's like some of the shit new atheists come up with. Like, I'm trying to think of something. Like, nothing doesn't mean nothing is like an example I always use. Nothing means energy, dust, and quantum phone is like what they'll say. And it's just kind of an intellectual sleight of hand.
Wait, Argent, I have a question. So what would you say to an atheist? They say, so who created God then? So if God created us, who created God? Like, what would you say to that?
No one created God. God is a cause. He's not an effect.
But couldn't they just say that then God came out of nothing? Like,
no, God is eternal. He always exists. He doesn't have a beginning or an end. It's to a certain existence is a aspect of him. It's a trait of himself. Also, he exists outside of time, because time is something that only exists in the physical universe. It doesn't exist beyond the physical universe, which is kind of part of it. Also, you can't have an infinite regression. It has to logically begin somewhere. Now, whether I guess the alternative question is whether or not the universe is eternal. Which I don't think it is, because... so there's the idea of the eternal universe. Probably the best version of it is what's called the oscillating universe. So the oscillating universe is the idea that the universe is continually remade and destroyed. So
That's what I believe.
So the issue with that is before gravity pulls the universe back...
Done in parts.
No, like it expands and then gravity pulls it back together and you have another big bang. The issue with that is matter will...
Most up-to-date theory.
Matter will collapse prior to gravity being strong enough to pull it back together. So that I don't think will ever happen. Sorry?
There's more up-to-date theories.
I don't know. I've seen different ones about it.
A bunch of new pictures by NASA that show a whole new galaxies being formed and all this stuff.
Are you familiar with the idea of dark energy at all?
Not everything is expanding outward. Some things are actually on a collision course with us. So it's actually not everything is following the same outward path.
Yeah, it's dark energy. I don't really know much about it. I admit I'm kind of a bit skeptical about a lot of it, because a lot of it just seems to me like... do you guys know what a fudge factor is? Okay, a fudge factor is when you know the right answer, but you're not sure how to get the right answer. So you add in a fudge factor to try to make it add up to what you think it should be.
So is that kind of like the Big Bang, kind of?
I wouldn't call it a Big Bang. I think to a certain extent I could see some of the stuff like dark energy or string theory or some of those things. They just kind of seem like a fudge factor to me.
Dark energy is, like, they don't know what it is. It's just a catch-all explanation for why the universe looks the way it does.
Like, has it been physically observed or proven, or is it just a potential explanation?
It's a potential explanation.
Okay.
Sort of like how dark matter explains why galaxies don't, have gravity that would make sense with what we know about mass and stuff.
Because it's
more relevant.
Like, do we even know how gravity works at all?
Theories that it's partially a particle, others that it's like a nature of, like, if space-time is curved, like, it's really...
No, it's predictable.
No, I know. Well, yeah. No, I'm saying it's predictable, but we don't really necessarily... I don't think we have any real idea. Like, I don't know if you could ever observe a gravitron. I think they'd be too small. But you could
Wait. I remember something. A few years ago, they were talking about the speed of gravity, and they actually calculated it. It was the same as the speed of light. They were judging by how fast gravity would affect an object based on how far away it was. Where? Can't remember where, though.
Right, but yeah, that's, I guess, kind of my feelings. I've read a couple books on, like, particle physics and that sort of thing. It's interesting. It's not kind of my primary area of interest, though. It's, I could never understand the math for it. It's just, my math skills aren't really good enough, to be perfectly honest. But no, it's interesting. Audible had a sale a little while ago, which was, I think it was the book I got was like it was one of the great courses books. It was like the metaphysical implications of theoretical physics. So I'll read that and I'll see what it has to say. I'm rereading Darth Plagueis at the moment. So
wait, Argent, is the new Star Wars movie the worst Star Wars movie?
It's hard to say which is worse between it and The Force Awakens. I think this one was more disappointing because The Force Awakens sucked, but you could tell like why they made it. They were just playing it as safe as humanly possible. Whereas with regards to The Force Awakens, the Last Jedi was more disappointing, I think, because there was more hints of them doing something a bit different with the movie. They just completely fucked it up.
Why is Star Wars a thing anymore? I know back in the 70s or 80s, it was
It's not very interesting.
a groundbreaking. They hand painted all the models. Everything was done to scale. It was revolutionary in how it was the first movie ever made like that. But now,
Star
it's
Justice
CGI.
was.
It's understand the audience.
Yeah. The
The
reboot's
nostalgia
awful.
factor.
I don't know. I'm like a huge fan. Well, judging
Like
from the
40
number of
years ago?
videos I made of it, I'm a big Star Wars extended.
Most of the people seeing it, I doubt, saw the originals when they came out.
No. Well, I doubt they've seen the originals.
Well, my brother's a
period.
big fan. He's all into that stuff. He watched the originals, like the Bible.
No, I.
Yeah, that was for me.
It's they just kind of normified it. Yeah, it's sad what they did to it. Disney ruins everything these days. Disney used to be
yeah.
like a good company, and now they're just shitty.
I think a big worrying thing was when they said that they were going to release one Star Wars movie like every year. That was definitely not a good
Now
sign.
they're releasing Han Solo. Now they're releasing Han Solo. I think
Is Han Solo a woman? A
No,
black woman?
that's probably they wanted that to happen. I like what Harrison Ford said. I'm Irish as a person and Jewish as an actor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy he is Jewish.
I think he's only a quarter Jewish.
I looked it up. I think his mom's Jewish.
I'm not sure.
I looked it up like a couple of months ago.
That
I was
was
kind of surprised.
that was like the most phoned in performance I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was awful. That was really bad.
You can tell he just wanted to die. Like he just wanted to get it over with.
Like Mark Hamill looked like shit in the new movie too. I was like laughing about how bad he looked.
His interview was really awkward. He's like, he's just shit.
Sometimes an actor that's in one of those famous series, they will not reboot the series no matter how much money they get offered.
Because I know Alec
It's like how,
Guinness
like,
regretted.
Ghostbusters 3.
Alec Guinness regretted being in Star Wars till his dying day.
Hey
Although,
guys, what's up?
although Alec Guinness made an absurd amount of money from Star Wars because they gave him like 2% of the box office. So
Holy shit.
he was, for those of you who don't know, he was Obi-Wan. But he was pissed off because he had like a bunch of other roles that he felt were better. Like he was in Lawrence of Arabia, he was in Bridge on the River Kwai, he was in he played the Tsar. He played Hitler actually in the good movie.
Based.
Hitler the Last 10 Days. So yeah, so Alec Guinness, yeah. You know what I don't get? Why is Leia still alive when her actor died, but Luke's dead?
No?
They had
Did you film it before she died?
No, I know, but it's really awkward. I don't know. It's just
Watch, they'll have like a
Argent. Argent.
yes.
Hello. Hey, we were having an interesting discussion earlier on one of your videos, the recent one, the Sith. thing.
Yep.
Yeah, that was like it's pretty cool. Like I was actually thinking about this, like as far as Star Wars universe goes, like there really is no objective morality or, in Star Wars other than beyond like the whole, don't hurt people and golden rule thing. But that's not really like strong as a basis for something. You know. Like, at least for the Jedi Order and Sith Orders.
I mean, it depends. There's different views of the Force and that kind of thing. It's interesting. It's. I think one of the interesting things is people within the Star Wars verse don't know what to make of it. Like, people don't... Like, Jedi don't really know what to make of the Force.
Yeah, I'm gonna get off. I'll see you guys.
Okay.
See ya.
Alright.
So yeah, that's like an ass. So it's interesting. I'll do a video on it eventually. The theory I buy into is I think it's called potentium, but it's the idea that the only real side part of the Force is the light side, and the dark side is just a misuse of the light side.
It just seems like the dark side really could really go places if they just weren't such asshats about it.
Yeah, but like I think Sith are stronger than Jedis, like substantially stronger.
Yeah, that's true.
But at the same time, it makes them fucking insane, and they age really rapidly. Bane was literally falling apart by his like mid-40s.
They should cast.
Why can't we get a Bane movie? Why can't we get a Darth Bane movie, and why can't we get a Darth Plagueis movie?
I don't know.
That make Darth Plagueis a woman.
No.
I don't know, female Moon.
I was actually hoping for an Old Republic movie.
No, that would be too good. That would be like a good idea. We have to make shitty reboots that like don't add anything. But no, you could do a Bane movie really easily. I guess we get a whole bunch of unfunny memes like with people Bane posting. They could get Tom Hardy to play Bane. No, he's too short. Bane is like 6'3", so you need some like huge guy to play him.
Doesn't he get like a suit later on though that covers his face? Maybe you could like throw in
the obelisk.
Like
the obelisk armor is really lame. I like Bane a lot, but the obelisk armor is like the lamest shit ever. He gets covered in like these living diamond-like barnacles.
You know what I actually thought was kind of lame?
What?
The whole like the one Sith thing that happens, I guess, later on in the extended universe.
Yeah, with Darth Krayt. Yeah.
I mean, I like his idea about it, but like their aesthetic is so disgusting to look at. It's just a bunch of spikes and black and red. Oh, so edgy. Mm-hmm. It's like 90s cheese or something.
Right.
The expanded series did come out in the 90s, so...
Yeah.
Anyways, guys, I have to work tomorrow, so I should be wrapping this up. Thank you, everybody, for coming on. I'll do another viewer hangout later. So, yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good night.